and welcome to a special episode of LAWD Lukan. Today we're going to look at real life crime. I'm going to take a different approach and tell you a story of two men convicted performing illegal gender reassignment from their home in Flore County, Oklahoma. Not only did they perform this with no training and only local anaesthetic, so the victim was conscious throughout, but they would eat the testicles or freeze them for later consumption. Now that seems pretty clear, but there's a lot more to people behind the headlines. And in order to get the big picture, we're going to examine what we can of Bob Lee Allen and Thomas Evan Gates III. And what's interesting here is that they haven't shut down their social media accounts. So apart from an absolute deluge of trolling about balls, we get a glimpse into the timeline surrounding the arrest, an exclusive picture of the men behind the headlines. It presents us with a question. Was this a case of a loving couple with an extreme fetish acting on consenting adults? Or was this a sinister case of abuse, fantasy, and manipulation? Bob has a background in computer science. His friends have described him as generous and a bleeding heart. He likes to write poetry, create digital and tangible artworks, including this piece called Rabbit Bear.
Thomas disagrees with me, but there's a bear here, and then there's a bunny rabbit here.
Here's where it gets a little murky. In 2016, Bob had a Kickstarter page in the name of Bob's Weekend Wonders, and he promoted his digital art, and for your $1, you were sent a QR code which took you to the artwork that you purchased. But it was the rewards that caught my eye. If we look at the $1 pledge, we see here that we get QR poems, an early draft of Fixing Bob. Fixing Bob is a graphic, explicit graphics of the time Bob, me, fell into depression and did much self-abuse, and how I recovered and took extreme measures to make myself whole. The current draft is about 40 pages, the final I expect to be close to 200. What you're getting is the raw content without the text to explain. Offered a separate pledge level as this is extreme content, including images of home surgery, not suitable for everyone. Thomas and Bob met in 2017, after Bob's ex-boyfriend left him for another man, and many saw it as a bit of a rebound. But they seemed to make a good couple. Bob was a tech guy, with experience in developing ATM machines, and was the alpha male in the relationship. Thomas, as far as I can find, was unemployed and had physical disabilities. Amongst their shared interest was music, and they often posted them singing. In fact, Bob had penned his own song called Go Sunday. Yep, that really actually happened, and I apologise profusely for putting you through that. I genuinely feel nauseous after listening to that song. It's something about it. But as I watched these videos, the childish playfulness felt like it had a cold edge. It emerged that there wasn't just music that they had in common. It was also sadomasochism, bondage, and infantilism. Following Bob's bankruptcy in 2019, he and Thomas were married in September of that year in a civil service in Tarrant County, Texas. It's not clear how far back the interests that they share go, and I'm fairly sure we'll hear more about this as the case unfolds in court, but I'll tell you more about that shortly. Early in 2020, the couple were involved in an alleged drunken car wreck where a young man lost his life. Thomas was hospitalised and Bobby fractured his sternum. The victim, we're going to call him Mr. D, was 28 at the time, and he'd met Bob on a website called theem.com, or the Eunuch Maker. Now this site doesn't exist anymore, but thanks to the wonders of the Wayback Machine, we can look at the landing page. And we can see here the EM, the Eunuch Maker, a community for everyone into mods and kinks of all kinds. Bob had told Mr. D that he had 15 years of experience and offered to do the back alley surgery completely free, but he would be allowed to video the whole thing. In the first week of October 2020, Mr. D flew from Virginia to Dallas and was driven from Fort Worth Airport to Bob and Thomas's cabin in the secluded woodland spot. He stayed the night in the cabin with Bob and Thomas and their various pets and waited until 5 o'clock the next day for Bob to perform the procedure. He had to wait till 5 because apparently Bob had some business on the internet he had to take care of. But we have to question what's going through Mr. D's mind. Were there no glaring red flags when he arrived? Would you have had a surgical procedure here?
All the stuff that was shoved in here is now dispersed throughout here. Oh yeah, we got deep bandus.
This is a shot from inside the cabin, and you can see here that it's not exactly a surgical environment. We can see the walls, for example, have damp or mould growing on them, and the sofa here, of course, a little well visited, shall we say, by the animals. Bob had even posted an image of an invoice for over £55,000 on his social media account. Now this is a picture of an invoice that was posted online by Bobby. One of the things to notice, the top item there, the base rate rotor wing, that actually refers to an air ambulance. Initially, both me and the trolls assumed that this was something to do with the castration supplies, but actually if we look at it now, we can see that this is actually a bill for Thomas's insurance as a result of the accident. On their social media is this post by Bobby in July 2019. I want to form my own church, a church of the woods. Basic principles are respect nature, treat people like you want to be treated. I'm a member of both OMS and COBM. Hopefully once things are set up, we can host their events in the woods. Currently have 21.34 acres in remote eastern Oklahoma. Great for camping. Once we get registered as an official church, y'all will be willing to donate to expand the retreat. Somebody help me with the legal side of things would be greatly appreciated. So actually, we might wonder if this was actually the beginning of something else, and it was a little bit more than just an indulgence of a fantasy that Bob was truly after. In amongst the things on Bob's social media, of course, is a like for this place. This is the Sin City Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. And as you can see, they have things like fetish and fantasy bingo on a Thursday, 8 till 11. So how does that work then? Do they read out body parts? And if you've got them pierced, you shout bingo? So, you know, like nipples, ears, navel, Prince Albert, bingo, bingo, yes, bingo, we win, I've got those. Just, you know, just a thought. The 2-hour operation took place on a makeshift table made from plywood and covered in surgical aprons. He was assisted by Thomas, who had passed the tools that was needed at the time. I have a ton of questions, but I know what you're thinking. Are the pets okay? Don't worry, they've been rehomed. But other questions need to be answered. How did Bob get the equipment? He spoke about having over 15 years of experience, and could he have actually been telling the slight truth about that? Could he have been acting on his cannibalistic fantasies for the last 15 years? It could explain why he never wanted to go to trial and was annoyed at Thomas for not being released earlier and testifying against Bob for a plea deal. As Bob had pled no contest to the charges, there would be no trial, and in exchange it was agreed that he would have the maiming charge dropped, which carries a potential of life in prison, and therefore he would only be looking at these charges. As we can see here, the list of offences reads conspiracy to commit unlicensed surgery, practicing medicine without a licence, maiming, attempted distribution of CDS, which is a type of drug, possession of dangerous drugs without prescription, failure to bury a dead human member, possession of controlled dangerous substance, and unlawful possession of drug paraphernalia. You can see also there that he was fined just over $5,000. Just a side note on Bob's legal advice. It was actually by a man named Mr. Schmuck. There you go. Interesting. But what if Thomas was to reveal more? What if, as part of his upcoming examination, he spills the entirety of the couple's beans? More on their sentencing later. Currently, the couple have been sentenced to a total of 13 years. Bob is looking at 12 years and 1 month and a fine of $5,000. Thomas, in exchange for testifying against Bob, got 3 felony counts of conspiracy, illegal surgery, and maiming dropped, 2 of which carried life sentences. We can see here then the charge sheet for Thomas. His offences are listed as conspiracy to commit unlicensed surgery, practicing medicine without a licence, maiming, failure to bury a dead human member, possession of controlled dangerous substance, and unlawful possession of drug paraphernalia. Also then a fine of just over $15,000. Thomas served 3 concurrent 333-day sentences and was released in October 2021. Mr. D has declined to be interviewed by the press and remained anonymous throughout. But this made me think, I wonder what kind of compensation you get for that. You know those calls where they ask you if you've been injured in a 444? This could make quite an interesting conversation for them. In 2016, a UK schoolboy received £17,000 for medical negligence, which resulted in the loss of a testicle. So it's a pair worth £34,000. In the UK, there's only a £20,000 compensation if you remove the wrong testicle. So that's got to be a healthy price tag for a ball sandwich. Yes, that is a picture taken by the couple. No, I don't know what that is. And yes, the trolls had a field day with this one. So the average testy weighs about 10 grams. So that's at least £1,700 per gram. More expensive than organic beluga caviar, comes in at $37 per gram. The only legal way to have a dish worth this much would be if you were to eat at this restaurant. But it all depends on who you are. A schoolboy only gets £17,000, but if you're a 52-year-old man named Stephen Haynes, you can get $870,000. As in 2017, a doctor accidentally removed the wrong testicle. Now that's $87,000 per gram, or $1.7 million for the pair. But another way to spend that kind of money is by ordering a couple of these ice creams, the Absurdity Sundays. All you need to do is see a guy called Gottlieb. And Gottlieb offers a special tour where you'll fly to the snowy peaks of Tanzania and sample the special ice cream, which is made from glacial ice from Mount Kilimanjaro. You have to climb the mountain with the tour guide and Gottlieb, and the whole enterprise costs $60,000. Although nobody's actually bought this experience yet. Alternatively, you could settle for the Lindeth Hotel chocolate pudding, which is worth a mere $34,000. The most expensive substance known to man is antimatter, which costs several $100 million per 1/1000th of a gram. But the substance which is comparable in weight to cost as a young man's testicle is Da Hong Pao tea, which is valued at £1,400 per gram. Anyway, after the surgery, Mr. D stayed at the cabin, but woke to severe bleeding. Mackie D. After the surgery, Mr. D stayed with the couple, but woke to severe bleeding, and after some negotiation was driven to the McAllister Regional Health Centre. According to the state of Oklahoma's probable cause affidavit, the couple said to him, no ER, no morgue, but it appears that they changed their mind a little bit later. Once there, Mr. D told staff that he had been encouraged to indulge in cannibalism and had been told that if he passed out or died on the way to the hospital, he'd be dumped in the woods, and that one of Bob's previous and problematic cases that he described as crazy had been left on the operating table, opened up overnight to die. Thomas and Bob were arrested as they tried to visit Mr. D the following day, and at the same time, police had obtained a warrant to raid the couple's property.
Back on the 10/14 of this month, our dispatch received a call and about a victim that was over at the McAllister Hospital, which is in Pittsburgh County. They said he had had some type of medical procedure done, possibly. They referred us to a residence south. We served a search warrant at 6 p.m. that evening. The 2 occupants wasn't there. They'd actually went over to Pittsburgh County and was at the McAllister Hospital trying to visit a victim. We sent the deputies over there to pick them up. Right now we're in the process of going through the evidence that we have. We have a lot of electronic data, just a lot of information. We've called for support from other agencies, the OSBI, the FBI. We're going to try to get some of the digital evidence and stuff to them so they can process it. So it'll be an ongoing investigation.
Were these individuals accepting payment of some sort for these?
As of right now, no. There's a website set up where you could maybe pay a membership to view some stuff.
Are you able to release the website?
Not at this time.
URL?
I think this is cult related, cult activity.
You know, I can't say it's cult activity. It is something that we have never, in my career, run across in this part of the country. It is borderline some type of activity.
Maybe thoughts of what Jeffrey Dahmer did in his day? Was this something along those lines?
We don't know yet.
And what is the victim's condition?
He's doing okay now. They've had to perform some type of surgeries up there, but he's in stable condition.
Are you able to release an age range?
No.
You just started here as sheriff here in county. I mean, it's
Yes.
pretty wild first story.
I'll say this: it ain't what you expect, you know. I mean, but you never know. You know, I've done this for almost 30 years, and every day is a learning experience. So you never know what to expect now.
Inside the cabin, they found flash drives, street drugs, adult diapers, a cautery tool with blood on it still, a bottle of xylocaine, which is used for anaesthetic and pain relief, in a flower pot. So that's as much of the stories that I can find. I've reached out to some of their friends for comment, but nobody has responded so far. What do you think? Were they consensually enacting a sinister fantasy? I hear people say, do what you want as long as you don't hurt anybody. But does that still apply if the participant is willingly entering into a contract of sorts? Or is it a case of two men with a perversion for sexual cannibalism who preyed upon vulnerable people with no resources and a desperate need to change themselves physically? One of my gripes with the story actually is that the press seem to describe Mr. D as having been lured there, but it's clear throughout the whole of this testimony that this was simply not the case. He went there voluntarily. His motives, unfortunately, probably going to remain a secret. So tell me what you make of the story. Do you think Bob's sentence was just? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. I think that behind every headline there's a vein of intrigue and a human story worth telling. I'm going to experiment with a few different kinds of videos, so if you enjoy the content or any of my other videos, please stroke your subscribe button and give you a little like tickle. Do come back and visit for more stories, reactions, and real life here on LAWD Lukan channel. And until I see you again, have a beautiful day. Love to my three. Take care of yourself.